Hello and welcome. The performance-based budget, the pro-poor budget. I mean, the finance minister today in Parliament read on behalf of the president our budget. And never have I seen Ghanaians so disappointed over a 17.5% tax on petroleum products. What is it exactly? Has some taxes been taken off the petroleum products and then the 17.5 put on there? What is it? Indeed, after you listening to the budget, do you feel that factories are going to spring up, jobs are going to be coming, and those better days ahead would be, quite closer than we think? I don't know what you think. When I come back, I'll introduce my panel who are going to discuss it on a layman's point of view what actually we had. My name is Nana Sakwa, and this is PM Express.
In addition, we propose the imposition of a special petroleum tax equivalent to 17 points as part of the rationalization of the VAT and excise regimes. We will extend the national fiscal stabilization levy of 5% and import levy of 1.2% through 2017 and increase the withholding tax on directors' remuneration from 10 to 20%.
Thank you for staying tuned. Performance-based budget. I'm going to introduce my guest straight away. To my immediate left, Ibrahim Musa, who is Head of Policy and Partnership, Water Aid Ghana. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we have our own brother, Sidney Casely-Hayford, the Policy Analyst.
Policy Analyst.
Today I make you a policy analyst. And then I have Prince Granting Kumi, who's CEO of Institute of Chartered Economics. Certified Economics. Thank you very much. Certified. So I'll start with you, Prince. Let's start with this 17.5 because you monitor the airwaves, the social media and everywhere, and people are really concerned about this sudden 17.5. The argument is that the CD is supposedly stable. The price for fuel has really dropped quite significantly. And therefore, if anything at all, you maintain the status quo and take whatever money you want from it, but the increase has been a problem. Now, I don't know if you are aware that certain levies have been taken off, and therefore, by putting the 17.5, it's not the whole 17.5. Some are being absorbed by the original levies taken off. What is happening to us?
Thank you, Nana, for the opportunity. Well, talking about this special petroleum tax, I'm a little worried about it because, I was thinking that this year, typically you may not be able to achieve much growth, but maybe some stabilization of the economic variables. But it appears as if the revenue side is worrying the government, and therefore they are sneaked in this special petroleum tax. And I was not expecting anything of that sort, because if anything at all, we have been talking about rather expanding the tax net instead of increasing of more taxes, and also leakages and so on that can be plugged in. These are the way to go for now, but bringing in this one, I think is a hard blow.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
leakages, as Prince has mentioned.
Yes.
I mean, would it have been a better option to come in and say we've devised a method of either cutting expenditure or reducing leakages? Because this has been quite a blow for people.
Yes, obviously, indeed, very challenging, because the theme for the budget 2015 is christened around transformational agenda. And a number of questions come up. How does it promote transformational agenda? Transformational agenda, yes, to shore up government revenue. If that's 17.5%, it seeks to do that. But like you rightly pointed out, what leakages do we seek in terms of policy orientation and practical manifestation, do to ensure that we plug leakages and ensure that government institutions are strengthened, to deliver services to poor people. And I ask myself, this 17.5%, if I reflect back in the sector that I work, the water and sanitation sector, there are a number of rural and small town water systems that depend on electricity, and most of our energy outlet also depends on fuel. Definitely there are trickle down effects on how rural and small town water schemes will actually contain this 17.5%. And if this budget, as we read through, is supposed to promote inclusive growth, and again we are slapping this 17.5%, then there are some contradictions in relation to how government seeks to promote poor growth.
Sydney, is it not amazing that not a single member of NDC MP in the House will stand up and say, look, let's give this a second thought? And not a single member of the MPP would also get up and say, well, I think the state needs money, therefore go ahead. Sharply divided. Everyone on this side says it's the best, and everyone on this side says, no, it's not the right thing. What do we do as Ghanaians?
Oh, one of the interesting phenomenon in life is that usually when a mother duck lays eggs and they hatch and she has her ducklings, they all follow her in a one dugu line, as we say. Wherever she passes, they all follow. If she swims, they swim. If she, eats off the ground, they do. When we used to play football, you remember we used to have one dugu line, and people would choose you and you move along there. You follow the leader, and everybody hopes that, if they count well, they'll be in line with the Abedi Pele or the Asamoah Giants team, so we can win victory for the day. We have a doko parliament, as you call it. In the Ga language, we call a duck a doko. I think the Akan people call it dabo.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it in the north. Do you have a name for duck, or it's not in your dictionary?
Duck is something like binyao. Yeah, the description you give perfectly fits in that.
That's it.
The Binyao Parliament.
Binyao Parliament. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. It's a Binyao Parliament. It sounds more powerful than doko. So that's what we have. We have a parliament that just follows whichever way their leader says they should go. So you're not going to get any result out of this. Parliament will debate this in the next week. I think by next week they'll start debating.
No, they've debated it and passed it.
They've already debated and passed it.
Yes,
certificate of agency.
Well, yes, of agency. So the president is apparently waiting to sign. They've gone through the year no.
Left or something. The minority left parliament.
They walked out and they refused.
And the majority.
What do you mean they've?
Under certificate of agency.
How can you do that?
Yeah, so they've gone their the ears and the eyes and the nose and everything. And according to the news, the president is waiting to just append the signature. So from tomorrow, when you get to the pump, you have to pay, the additional tax.
How long is it going to take for 2016 to get here? 2 long years, I mean, what are we doing? It sounds to me like an attempt to just try and sneak things in through the back door. And this is very disappointing. I didn't know that the minority had walked out and that we had done this under a certificate. And I think that we're going to talk about this tomorrow. I don't want to plug it, but you know we have an event with Occupy Ghana event tomorrow. And we're talking about, this is our second week of our corruption debates. And I haven't seen or heard anything from my fellow Occupy team that this is actually what happened. Maybe nobody looks, listen to TV or radio afterwards.
Was overtaken by events.
So tomorrow we are going to start paying the 17.5%.
Yeah,
but we don't know exactly what it's going to be based on, whether it's going to be based on the ex-pump price and we're actually going to eliminate all the levies.
No, that's been a big dilemma for everybody.
So
now.
They haven't said anything, because you can't tax us on tax. You can't tax us on the levy. You can't impose the levy and then tax us on the levy as well. That's double taxation, and that is illegal if you want to look at it clinically.
I'm supposing they will take all those levies out, and probably they will maybe amount to maybe 12% or something, and then whack 17 and out. That's what I'm thinking.
So the net increase might end up at about 5 or 6%.
Something like that.
But there is a special petroleum levy for tax.
Yes, there is a special petroleum levy. Yes. I've forgotten the build-up, because we did a lot of work on this at some point when we're looking at the subsidies and eliminating subsidies and what government had to do. I mean, so we did a very thorough study.
Seth wasn't clear, because Evans asked him at Newsnight, and his explanation did not mean anything. It didn't mean anything. He was not able to, calculate. I just deduced that that's what they would do. Take some out and just whack a lump sum on them.
Well, clearly they can't actually allow it all on. I mean, there's no way they can do that. Yeah. I think this government is asking for a major, demonstration in this country. Well, I think they're asking for it because
Nitiwul is called for it.
Well, I mean, with everything that is going on, you can't bring this. With the way everybody's complaining and the way things are going, you can't possibly come and slap on another 17.5%. If it is on top of.
It's not a smart move at all.
Oh, no.
The timing, you're an economist, so what would you speak about the timing of this?
You see, taxes must be convenient, and even the time that you slot it in also counts. Now, we are in an era of demonstration talking about things are not going on well, and I think the government is trying to see it. My worry is that sometimes when genuine complaints are put on board, because of the political polarization, they may take it that, it's one of those things. Meanwhile, it's a very serious issue that might be considered. I was not expecting to have a new tax at all, because that will have a pass-over effect on everyone. Already, inflation is on the rise. So we pass on tax, definitely it's on petroleum. Petroleum affects the whole economy. So I am just worried why. Maybe they have to explain more, because as we are all saying, we don't know how it's even going to be calculated.
But if it's going to hit the pump prices, if it's going to hit the pumps tomorrow,
if it has been accepted, then it should.
Which means that the stations have to actually start changing their pump prices from tomorrow.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
If the president has already signed it, then it means tomorrow morning it should work.
But I wonder if they know what pricing to use, what pricing to use. To be honest with you, it hasn't been clear at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It hasn't been clear at all.
Well, the current price of super at the retail is about what, 334, 335, 3 CDs 35 or 3. It was 336 until we got the 2% reduction, and which didn't make any change at all. So. Somewhere at 336. So tomorrow morning we'll have to look out and see what kind of changes have come about. This is abysmal. This is abysmal. There's absolutely no reason why we should carry on like this. And I don't want to sound militant, but this is not what we expect of a government that is looking to actually preserve the economic well-being of a nation.
Well, this is supposed to be pro-poor.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is pro-poor.
Yeah.
And obviously that is one aspect from civil society that we expect government to do more, because as a social democratic government, professing social ideals and to be on the side of the poor, we expect that a number of these measures should reflect the concerns of ordinary people. And so with respect to this particular 17 1.5%. I only believe that if I look at the introduction, point 3, Honorable Setekpe indicated that this is the abridged version. And be that as it may, I only hope that the fuller version, like you are saying, will provide some clearer indication as to how this particular policy will be implemented. But like I keep saying, if the arithmetic and mathematics are not clear, then what happens is that people then take advantage and do advantage of poor people and try to exploit them the more. And so that is why some of these policy measures, when you are introducing them, you need to be a bit clearer, because there are a number of social interventions, social programs that depend highly on fuel, that depend highly on energy. And so if a statement like this and a very huge figure of 17.5% is mentioned and there is no clarity, then you can imagine what the Makola woman will do, when the person wake up tomorrow. In most cases, our people will just say, oh, 17.5% has been added, and they start calculating on their own.
I hope the trotro drivers and the taxi drivers will just take it easy for at least 2-3 days.
While we fill our tanks and buy about 1 week, one week of cheap fuel before it shoots up again. But I don't understand. Something you said has got me thinking. This is a social democratic party, or at least it's touting itself as social democrats. So you're killing your pro-poor programs by doing this, because clearly we all know in this country now that if you increase anything to do with fuel or transportation, you are increasing food prices. It's a direct link. It's not indirect at all. It's direct. So it'll hit us. So food prices are going to go up. You are in court with 12 unions
who are striking tomorrow.
Who are striking
on
tomorrow,
Thursday,
and who are asking for their pension money to be released to them. And this is your political base. The workers are your political base, or at least, as far as your social democratic principles are concerned, you claim that you are there to protect the rights and the welfare of the workers. So now you're already antagonized them by withholding their money, and you have antagonized them even double by actually, you engage them in court. You actually filed a suit against them in court. So you've got that fight to fight. Then you've got all the other strikes that are going on with the nurses, with the doctors, and everybody else. I mean, how did we get here? How did we get here? Where do we come from proposing a budget and saying we are going to hit a target of about 22 billion cedis in revenue, and we end up with only currently we're at about 17, and I don't see how we're going to get to 22 at the end of the year. So you're going to run short of your targeted revenue by about 2 or 2.5 billion cedis by the end of the year, and your expenditure is in step with your budget, which is about some 30-something billion. There is no space for government to do anything else but pay salaries, pay down its debt, all right, and then keep hoping that it can catch up somewhere along the line. And year after year, we are deficit financing. This year again, we are financing another 8.8 billion deficit in 2015. Last year was another 8.8 if I remember, and the year before it was 8.5. So every year we are digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's no sign of actually how we're going to turn it around. This budget is futureless. All right? It doesn't leave you and me with any hope that we can get anything in the future. And it doesn't give those unemployed young men coming up any hope that they can actually find a slot in life as we go forward. See? So 2015 story might be the same. Every year we come and talk about all these big schemes that we are going to produce, and all the schemes that we are going to cut the sod, and then we say we are 35% complete because we cut the sod. Okay? And this is all that is going on. And the poor people, I don't like to call them poor, let me call them underprivileged, all right, to be more politically sensitive, all right? But the underprivileged who desperately need an avenue to be able to craft a living out of the bare earth and the simple things in life have to also be saddled with this, because this hits everybody across the chain. This is not a good budget.
Let me move on, because being water aid has and we have got a lot of sanitation problems.
Absolutely.
So has the budget addressed anything with regards to water and sanitation?
Obviously, if you pick the point 121, around page 36 of the abridged version that was presented, there is, you know, a well thought out articulation on water.
There is.
In fact, a very comprehensive detail on water, and statements have been made around the pond expansion, you know, and intake project, how progress has, you know, even moved to 96% completion, and it is gratifying if measures will be taken to ensure that completion, you know, reaches the January promised timeline. What that means is that areas like Adenta, areas like Medina, Ashoman, and the nucleus areas will have access to potable water 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, 365 days. That is what people need. Not water that will run for 1 hour, 2 hours. And consistently, civil society from the water and sanitation sector, this has been our clarion call, that how do government support utility like Ghana Water Company to be financially viable and get men and women with the leadership acumen, you know, to drive, you know, that agency to ensure that, you know, it deliver. And so if you look at the water component of this budget, I think that the government target of 76% for urban water and overall target for 78%, you know, for both rural and urban water, obviously is on course. What is disappointing in this budget is in the area of sanitation.
We'll come back and do sanitation, but I think we give government a thumbs up on water. Yeah. And when we come back also, come next year, the progressive free education begins. Now here we are grappling with money, taxing fuel. So where's that money going to come from for the education? Yes, it's welcome, but where are we going to get the money from? Stay tuned. Well, we're talking about the pro-poor performance-based budget, but we've identified one thing which is good, and that's, you know, water. I give everybody a chance to congratulate the government on water, and I'll start with you, Prince. I mean, they've done well. As for the pond water thing, I think it's done well.
The water desalination project.
I think that's commendable.
That's okay. That's fine.
The only bit of it is, let me conclude, is to say that in terms of the outlining areas, you know, that need the services, because we still are broad-based. There are still some areas that actually need water more than other areas.
Well, I mean, Adenta needed water more than the Sahara
exactly.
Desert. Now they're going to get it.
And Medina and all those things. So we say that in terms of targeting, you know, at least, you know, those areas should be set. But the earlier point about this 17.5% and its impact on limited mechanized systems, you know, rural communities that depend on electricity generated, you know, power system, the implication for their ability to give water to poor people will be hampered if this, you know, fuel thing is not curtailed.
Peter.
Yes. Actually, well, I'm hearing that it's going to be done, well, properly targeted. And, you know, these days in the world as we are now, getting solutions are very easy because you can pick from others, but the implementation, that is very important. And let me just bring in what we have just mentioned about this tax system. Sometimes the government doesn't indeed keep the revenue from the taxes, because you see, when you push it into petroleum sector or fuel sector, what happens is that it also passes on to transportation, and then cost of living become high. So what happens? Labor begins to agitate. You know, so in the end, you have to try and meet them in the way. So you bring a cycle, and in the end, you will not be able to even retain that revenue that you are hoping to get from it. You know, so that is fine. That laid down, you know, activities and plans for the water sector, beautiful. But my only wish is that they can actually be able to fund it and put it in place. That would be 60
better. At the moment, we are 60.8 to GDP, which is as close to HIPIC as we can get. And we, at the back of it, the progressive free education is also coming up. I mean, should the minister say, listen, hold on, we want to do it, but at this time we're too much in debt, or why not? Let's do it. I don't know how it works in economics.
Yes, you see, sometimes it's not just economics that they look at, and maybe sometimes the modeling is also a problem, because I believe that before you put anything in place, you must have done the calculation, you will have modeled to see what its effect and so on will be. Well, they are near the kitty, but from outside, I am seeing that they are going to have a problem. Maybe that is why we are trying to get more taxes from this source. But the problem is that they may not be able to, well, they say they are getting funding from outside. And as we are saying right, that is mean they are going to get more loans. Already where we are is a problem. And then servicing it, paying the interest yearly also will affect the budget. So it's a whole dicey thing, but I really hope that they should be able to do, because education is a very crucial sector of the economy. So if it can be done, fine. But looking at the revenue side and the expenditure target, and I'm getting the idea that, as I said, we have not been able to go to all. But it seems it's going to be from loans and other things. And if that is what is going to happen, then we are still compounding the situation.
Tomorrow, Thursday, as you've already said, is Occupy Ghana, so maybe we can occupy this budget before. Let's occupy the budget. I'm still of the view, I mean, if I listen to Ace, last Thursday, and all the numbers that he was talking about, and clearly, with recommendations, and they say, plug this hole, get this money, seize their, whatever it is. All they're looking for is 1.5 billion. And I'm sure, between Jida, Suba, yesterday some guy dropped me an audit report from hospital, and even a student from Kufuria Poly, a student, the SRC, even they, their audit report with, money's missing. I'm sure we can get 1.5 million easily if we occupy this
easily. You over the years, when you look at it and you try to quantify, you don't even need to quantify. The Auditor General has quantified it for you. All right. If you read the Auditor General's report, he gives you a summary. Most of what you hear about the Auditor General's report is what he has written about the Consolidation Fund. He has another audit that he does for the municipal assemblies. That's even more damning than the Consolidated Fund. Okay? And then he has several other performance audits that he does. Look, it is an appalling situation we find ourselves in. And the fact that it is sitting right under the nose of government, and government can't even think about how to fix it. We are having, and when I talk about we here, I'm talking about Occupy Ghana. We are having to explain to government what the law says and the power the law gives to institutional heads to implement what they want to, what they need to do. The law gives the Auditor General such significant power, all right, to disallow expenses and to surcharge people, to attach people's property in order to recover what he has identified as stolen funds. If you read the Auditor General's report, you will see cash theft, procurement issues, stores issues, non-retirement of interest, ghost names on the payroll. He identified the Woyome thing long before it came into Parliament, and Parliament picked it up. It was in his audit report. But the Audit Services Act makes it very clear that what the auditor has to do is to inform Parliament of his findings and tell them where the problems are. His job is to inform the Attorney General that the following persons whom he has identified as having stolen wealth or stolen money, he wants the Attorney General to take it to court and recover the sums of money. And if the Attorney General doesn't do it within 60 days, he has a right to take it further. He has all the power and the authority to do what he has to do. And we are sitting down pining for $1.5 billion to do things. Yesterday, or I think this morning I read in the paper, the VRA says that they need $1.5 billion and that will fix the whole energy supply crisis if they had $1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So I say to myself,
that's like 1,500 megawatts.
Even if you don't do anything at all in a year, devote all the money you can raise and give it to VRA and say, solve this problem. Here's your $1.5 billion. Let's fix it. And if at the end of year one, the doomsday is over. Ghanaians will cheer for you wherever you go. Okay? Ghanaians will cheer for you, and that will be your first year when you are in office. Second year you are in office, find another $1 billion and give it to water and sewage, and say, fix the sewage problems. Yeah. Here is the money. By the time you're in your second year of governance, you fix both the electricity and the water problems. If you say to Ghanaians, this is what I'm doing, so just bear with me while I do these things in 2 years, Ghanaians will calmly sit back and wait for it to be fixed. Thereafter, you have 2 years to just make a lot of noise about your achievements, and you get re-elected. Nobody's even going to tell a Ghanaian not to vote for you, because we have lived with this for too long.
Stay tuned, we're coming, because at this present time, I'm sure citizens would rather see, cutbacks and government trying to empathize with people. But these taxes, I don't know how it's going to go down. We're coming straight back. Thank you very much for staying. And as you know, we're just discussing the budget. I'm sure as the week goes on, further details will come and we'll all add up and hopefully make sense to us. But for now, it's just all over the place. But another thing which is very important is sanitation, my brother. And I know that's well within your jurisdiction. Well within your jurisdiction. Is this budget going to clean up our cities?
Obviously, from the abridged version, page 38 that we have, clearly the articulation is woefully inadequate. And I only hope that, as the Honorable Minister said, the full version will contain issues that will address the poor sanitation status that unfortunately led to the deaths of many Ghanaians during the last 3 months. Even I, unfortunately, first about environmental sanitation, second about basic sanitation. Environmental sanitation reflects in the heap of pile-up garbages that we see at market centers, at institutions like schools, in our environments, our homes, left uncollected for months. That breeds all kinds of pathogens.
I mean, with something like that, should there be enforcement, or should it necessarily be, money allocated towards it?
It can be cured through multiple factors. Enforcement is one. But you see, in civil society, we have been talking about a number of approaches. We are not just saying that government should fund. Of course, government needs to fund sanitation. And when we talk about funding, if you come to, I'm just using the one which is very closer to your premises here, Multi-TV, Malata Market. If you walk into Malata Market and you have just one container that can serve the market, you can imagine, how many hours will that container not get filled? But if you were to have 5, 6 containers placed at vantage points, people who even otherwise could have been carelessly throwing garbage and all manner of things around, having found this, can then have recourse to put the waste there. But if the facilities are not there, that does not give them the liberty to throw rubbish anyhow, but it can encourage them.
Prince, let me come in here. You see, you go to every community and they will all chip in money and build their mosque or build their church and everything. Why don't we have this sense of the same community chipping out and putting out certain things? Should everything come from the budget, or should we get to a point where we need to own a certain bit of our environment?
Yeah, of course, sanitation issue is multidimensional, It's also attitudinal anyway, because people will have to know that this has got to do with, my health, and therefore I must also see how I can clean my environment and so on. But again, that's why leadership is also a key. Leadership must plan and even motivate and lead them into, getting things done. So yes, we agree that it's attitudinal, and even that education is also the key. So there are several parts of this problem. government must do its way, but the people must also change their attitude, of course, with the direction and leadership of the government.
Sydney, I want to put the same question. I mean, you know, at church, you go to every community, they donate and build their church, they donate and build their mosque. Why? I mean, should we get into a habit of, you know, donating and owning certain bits of amenities, or should we all say that, oh, whatever happens, it has to come from the budget?
You see, there are opportunities for people to create business in instances like this. There is no way we can actually control the garbage situation in the inner city the way we do it. There are well-worn and trusted methods, and as Prince says, we don't need to reinvent the wheel anymore. There are so many people who have done it already. Just go and see. And even if you can't see these days, just go on the websites, you know, and you'll get it. You have it all laid out, especially with the academic websites. They would have done a paper or 2 or 3, and they would have laid out exactly what needs to be done and how it can be done. The issue of garbage collection or waste disposal in this country is not rocket science that has to be done. You know, frankly, I have actually sent a proposal once before to the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, telling them how I would do it if he would give me a contract. And my method is simple. I would set up compost areas within the inner city, and I would just get everybody to, you know, dump their garbage into strategically placed bins, and every night, and I won't work during the daytime when the traffic is congested and heavy. I'll work at night, and I'll pull them from various sites, and I'll take them to my composting site or my pressure site, and I'll compress them into smaller units, because the ratio is about 100 to 1. If I take 100 tons, I'll compress it, I'll get a ton. So I can do a lot more movement during that period. So it's not a difficult thing. I can take it one step further, and I can separate the look, I'm so tired. You can actually separate the waste separation thing. Yeah. You can have your plastics from your papers and everything else. And you can do that. And again, it's not rocket science. If you actually take a trip to Japan, China, Sweden, Denmark, Holland, anywhere, they have them. You can actually buy a whole separation machine and just bring it and operate it, and you're done. You know? So private sector has the opportunity. But the problem we face is that our government is so bent on taking everything, wanting to handle everything, wanting to control everything, wanting to steal everything. So private sector doesn't get an opportunity to actually flourish in circumstances like this.
Again, Nana, if you come to what Prince and a senior colleague mentioned, if you look at the National Sanitation Policy 2010, there is enough articulation of private sector involvement, talking about enabling the environment and all that. The point really is, currently as we speak, in the sanitation management chain, private sector is involved. But where are the containers?
Yes.
Where are the bins? That's the point we are making. Look, we commend government for introducing National Sanitation Day, which commenced 1st November. I understand, Nana, with all due respect, you are a traditional leader. You and many of your colleagues who are traditional rulers mobilize people, and they did clean-up campaigns. As we speak, some of them still do not have where to cut that rubbish and dump where.
Yes, and if you
is it with their hands?
Yeah, if you allow
and much as I agree with you that look, sanitation also is more of behavior and attitude. But you see, facilities must be there. If facilities are there and people just, you know, pollute the environment with careless abandon, then that is where we keep saying that the MMDAs, Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assembly, must enforce the law. And I bet you, I don't think any traditional ruler in any of our communities will want to mingle with the law if people who deliberately, you know, pollute the environment are caught up in the hands of the law, you know, and they're supposed to be dealt with. But you see, we must invest in these processes, create an enabling environment, let the private sector come in. And it's all about confidence in the system. And let's create that.
And it's not only that, you see, Nana, if you just walk around your own community and see, nearly every morning when I walk around where I am, and I want to use 2 examples of the Malam market that we have in my own community neighborhood. If you walk around my community, every morning I go there and I see people sweeping their compounds.
Absolutely.
All right, they sweep their compounds and they'll sweep a little frontage that they have. And you know what they do? They then pile up all the garbage, the rubbish that they have got, somewhere where they consider to be government area. It's not in their home. So that anybody who comes to see them, their home is clean, but it's government that hasn't done the job. So the need to have dump sites where you actually go and put things is critical. You will not go to anywhere in the Western world where you won't find a community with an estate and you won't find a collection site where everybody is expected to go. In fact, everybody has a bin in front of their house. The garbage truck comes one day in the week, and if your garbage is not in front, they won't pick it up. You have to put it at a point where it will pick it up. Okay, and if you have certain types of waste, you need to take it to a different dump site and dump it there. This is easy to understand. It's not complicated. You don't need a pilot study or anything to rationalize whether this is sensible to do or not. You've seen it. Most of us have lived abroad. We've come back. We know how it gets done. And most of our institutional heads who handle all these can do it. Hasn't Oko van der Poel spent years of his life working in the US before he came to Ghana and was made mayor of Accra? What is so simple about this? He doesn't even need common sense. He just needs copy sense. You see? It's not common sense. It's copy sense.
Just follow it.
Right? So that's what you have to do. Now, before I leave off, sorry, I know you want to move on, but you drive past Malam Market. All right, on the way from McCarthy, you're driving past Malam Market, coming towards Sanitation. The stench, the stink of rotting food, all right, material that is left overnight that has not been collected. And when the heat intensifies and it rots, it stinks, and it follows you all the way from Malam Market straight through to Udoko. You can smell it, all right? If you're coming the other way around from Awoshi, coming back there, you smell it as soon as you come down Awoshi, you smell the rot of the garbage that is going on. This has been there for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. I have gone several times and reported that this stench is not good, it is unhealthy, so that when we have cases of cholera, we are complaining that we have 22,000 cases of cholera. I'm surprised. Because cholera is a poor man's disease. It's not a rich man's disease. It's a simple thing. Wash your hands, clean your environment, and you're safe. This one too, we cannot do.
And Nana, there is one link of sanitation to economic development, which we often overlook. As we sit, myself and you, at the end of the month, part of our paycheck is taken as taxes. Imagine that I lie in the house for a whole month. I don't get paid. And who will tax what? So, Nana, you are here for 30 days. You couldn't work because you were hit by a disease caused by poor sanitation. I am. My senior man has the same problem, and Prince equally. This 17.5%, what is going to come out of it? Zero. And so when we talk about sanitation, the need to invest in sanitation, we are talking about investing equally in economic development. How many tourists will come to your country? If after landing at the airport, like my brother said, and driving through Opebia, through High Street, the whole place is smelling. Nobody would like to come. And so there is an interesting link between, sanitation and economic development. And that is one area that, we feel that if there should be a real look at this budget, our 275 MPs must look at it seriously, and give it attention.
Well, I'll give you 1 minute to sum up what's going to come up out of this wonderful budget.
Okay, so studying this budget, wonderful indeed, and comparing it to last year, you could see that the targets have been missed, almost all of them. If you look at the economic variable, inflation is not good, and they are missing it already. Interest rate is going up, so all the economic targets are not on the rise. So to that, even we could see that their projection for next year too is milder because of what has happened now. So I think it's worrying, and the need for some transformational, thing. Of course, I've seen some transformational part of it, but since we are not meeting the target, it makes us to think that we may not also be able to, meet what has been set for 2015. I'm also worried about the small scale side. But I remember last year there was some SME fund that was mentioned. Yes, and it's missing. I don't know whether it's somewhere I have not seen. It is not there.
It has expired.
Yes, it is just gone.
Was that SME fund?
Exactly.
2 million?
Yeah.
Is it 5 million going there? But
was it 5 million? I've forgotten now.
Yes, but
I knew it was there.
I was interested. I looked through and I see that it is not there. That means the poor we are talking about, because Ghana, the employment from SMEs and from agriculture, and these places are not doing well, then we have a problem.
They've now become rich. Anyway, Sydney, what are we expecting on Thursday, 4 o'clock at Christ Church Hall?
Yeah, Christ the King Church Hall. We are addressing the corruption issue for the second time. We dropped a letter with the Auditor General and the Attorney General, asking them to respond within a stipulated point of time. At least they should acknowledge our letter within 7 days. We understand the Auditor General has actually reached out to us with the letter. We haven't seen the letter yet. But we're also saying that if within 30 days the Auditor General does not surcharge those whom he has identified in all his previous reports as having stolen funds from the government of Ghana, then we will issue a writ of mandamus and we will go to court, and he will be mandated to go ahead and disclose and surcharge, because we need the money. This country needs the money. And if the government is not going to fight for it, well, we are going to fight for it.
Is it the budget in a way that they are going to?
Yes, they put it in the budget.
They have certainly responded. They have certainly responded to the pressure. So we are happy with that.
So maybe
but Anna, let me just close and say, look, it's okay to see that there's something being done about water, and the water aid rep here has said a lot. But look, until and unless water is running through our taps 24 hours a day, the whole year round, without any interruption, and unless it is clean and potable, healthy water, it is not acceptable that we are even talking about patting ourselves on the back.
It's not too much to ask.
It's
the basic requisite.
It's not too much to ask. Well, folks, I knew there was not going to be enough time to discuss this, but at least we tried. Ibrahim, Sydney, Prince, thank you very much. Thursday, between 2 and 3 p.m. Don't want to miss it. Joy FM, tuning and listening to my piece. That's my opinion. Thank you for watching, and tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.